Welcome along to rural New Zealand. I'm your host, Gordon Findlater. Well, on this show, we're up in Marlborough for the harvest. We check out a new piece of technology being put to use at the Rangitata diversion race. And we're making scones. But first up tonight, we're off to Havelock. South Island Farmer of the Year John Young played host to a crowd of almost 200 who had arrived for the winners' field day. The day was all about John telling the special story that is Clearwater mussels, and after more than 40 years in the mussel industry, John is as passionate as ever.
My whole working career has been mussel farming. I started in 1974 as a technical officer with what was the Ministry of Fisheries. And being an entrepreneur type, the chance to get in and actually have your own mussel lines was a dream. And so by 1980, I had my own mussel lines and left Methven in 84 and set about building a contracting business for other farmers. And from there, that evolved until in 2003 we built a state-of-the-art vessel, similar to one of these, much prettier, in Australia, $2.5 million project, and we didn't have the economy of scale. So the economy of scale came with an amalgamation with Tallies, of which we're 50-50 partners, and was subsequently doubled the size of the company from 2007 till now. And so we're currently producing 10,000 tonne and next year 12,000 tonne. From initial start off way back in 1980 of 200 tonnes.
It's been a long journey for John Young, who has grown Clearwater mussels from humble beginnings. The green shell mussel industry has been developed from scratch by innovative farmers over the past 40 years. John puts part of the industry's rapid growth down to mechanisation and innovation.
Basically, I worked in the water all those years ago. Had a dive suit on most of the day. It was one approach to doing it. I had a friend come who was a farmer and said, "Man, you've got to mechanise." And I resisted, but once we started the process of mechanisation in 1987, you get hooked. We're Kiwis. We are always thinking about a new machine, a faster machine, a better rope, a better float system. My company here, if you had a look out the back, we build our own, we make everything. We manufacture the cotton that we seed with, we manufacture the floats, we manufacture our own vessels.
Many of these technologies were on display with the Sounds legend, Clearwater's $3 million 1,000 horsepower V12 powered vessel dedicated to seeding. Initially, up to 800 spat or baby mussels per metre are attached to biodegradable cotton stockings and dropped into the water on nursery lines. After 6 to 12 months, the lines are recovered and reseeded at a lower density to mature, which will usually take between 15 and 18 months. Once reaching maturity, it's time for harvest. We saw the Polaris Image in action, Clearwater's 170-tonne harvester. The harvester will pull up ropes which will contain around 35 tonne of mussels per line. The vessel will harvest a whopping 90 tonne of mussels at a time. It's then back to Havelock to drop off the load. The slick operation allows Clearwater to produce 35 tonnes per hectare on average a year over its 90 farms, with its best farms producing 62 tonnes per hectare.
We adapted the best Japanese longline technology that they use for growing scallops and abalone in the Sea of Japan. We adapted that and mussel farmed on that using rope. So we became the world leaders in showing people how to do it. Unfortunately, back in the 80s, I exported it to 2 Chileans from San Diego, and they're now a threat, growing vast quantities of blue mussels, but no real regulation, no water quality rules like we have. It's a cowboy, I'd say it's a cowboy operation. So this is, we've got the world-class operation. We're the place where everyone comes to steal our technology and to see how we're doing it.
The quality of New Zealand water is the game changer that allows us to produce the world-famous green shell mussels. The Marlborough Sounds are the perfect example, with high rainfall and river systems renewing the inner sounds with fertility, while the outer sounds feed off nutrients provided from the sub-Antarctic current.
New Zealand is blessed. I shouldn't say that, but because I'm not religious at all, but it is blessed with an abundance of sheltered inlets and bays where there is potential for aquaculture. Now, I've just been to Australia to a friend's house in Marlborough where they're oyster farmers. They farm oysters right up into the town, and they have got an area not much bigger than this harbour that they farm oysters in. They're so limited with where they can go. It's just an open coastline that drops onto a continental shelf. You know, as you know, with New Zealand, we've got a huge continental shelf, huge amount of productivity. We've got these sheltered inlets and bays. We've got water that we're pioneering, you know, in Golden Bay and Tasman Bay and Coromandel, you know, which is offshore water, much more expensive to farm. We are so well placed to take advantage of aquaculture and grow it into the billion-dollar industry that the government talks about and we dream about. As Kiwis, we should be absolutely proud. This is a native product. You know, we farm sheep, we farm cattle. I mean, you know, the cattle, it used to be an oryx. You know, we farm sheep from Spain. You know, we farm kiwi fruit from China. But we farm green shell mussels in these pristine waters, a native animal, you know, and it's a fickle creature, make no mistake, but I think it's just a marvellous story.
And while they occupy just 0.1% of the Sound's waters, Young sees the operation expanding in other parts of the country in the future, something he's planning on very much being part of.
I'm so passionate about this. What I believe is I'm 65 this year. I've been in this business since I was 23, and I would like to think that I've got another 10, 15 years doing this with this kind of passion. It's not a job, it's a pleasure. As far as the future goes for the industry, we've got a headwind. We've got a headwind against certain regions of the country, this region in particular being Marlborough, and that the council, the Marlborough District Council although this is in their region and it's a great industry, they don't seem to support any growth in this industry. So we're now expanding the Tasman district. I think realistically, we're probably producing 66,000 tonnes in total, industry-wide, out of these sounds, about 90,000 tonne in total around the country, and I can't see the tonnage in the sounds growing. And so the development will be in the Tasman district. That's a whole different story. You know, we're farming out in open water. It's hard work. Coromandel, perhaps Banks Peninsula, Apotiki. You know, but this is a new frontier. This is rough water, and it is New Zealand. You know, we're this little rock in the middle of the Pacific, and we're taking a frozen product and trying to get a premium price. You know, don't set the bar too high.
And I think it's fair to say if the bar isn't being set too high, they're clearing it pretty comfortably. Well, stay with us after the break. We're off to Marlborough to try some Sauvignon Blanc. Welcome back to rural New Zealand. Well, harvest is now finished, with winemakers around the country turning their attention to fermentation. However, we ventured up to Marlborough in the peak of harvest and paid a visit to Lawson's dry hills. And as it turns out, a slick operation is required during the busy period. Our day begun at Lawson's Dry Hills Blind River Block, just north of the Awatiri River, where viticulturist Mark and his team were in full swing.
Yeah, this time of year is crazy. It's the best way to describe it. Yeah, long days, picking grapes, about 100 tonne a day. Generally we do ourselves, and then we have other contract stuff coming into the winery at night. So the winery runs 24 hours a day. We've got through this season all right. We come very close to getting the river come very close to being shut down for irrigation this year. So yeah, we had a wee bit of rain about 10 days ago that sort of held things up for a day or two, but it hasn't caused too many issues as far as rot and stuff goes yet. So everything's still looking nice and clean. So yeah, we want it fine for another 10 days, 2 weeks, and we'll pretty much have the bulk of it in. Yeah.
Once the harvester had deposited his load onto the truck, the grapes then make their way to the Lawson's winery, found on the outskirts of Blenheim. From here, they'll make their way into tanks, where it's up to winemaker Marcus Wright to work his magic.
One of the key parts of my job is making sure Mark knows exactly what I want, you know, and we worked with, you know, some of these blocks for 15, 20 years. So we've got a good idea of what we expect from the block, you know. So if we're talking about Sauvignon Blanc, you know, some blocks they do green flavours really well. So that's what we're targeting, you know. We'll leaf pluck less, we'll harvest a bit earlier, we'll get green characters from there. Other blocks we know we can get really lovely ripe characters from. So, you know, Mark needs to know what I want, and he's pretty good at delivering it. And I probably spend more time in the vineyards, you know, once things get ripe, so making the actual picking decision. So the picking decisions are largely made on flavour, and picking, you know, is it, do we pick today or in 3 or 4 days' time? That's actually, particularly with Sauvignon Blanc, quite crucial. So we're looking for a peak in passion fruit character. And it goes up and then it tends to drop quite quickly. So judging where it's at the most passion fruity is, you know, is all part of it. So that's time out in the vineyard, you know, tasting the grapes.
With a reputation for producing premium quality, Marcus travels not just the country, but parts of the globe, standing behind his product. There's also 3 special words that have the foreign markets excited for their product: Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
For a lot of people overseas, New Zealand wine is Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. And I'm often in the position when we're overseas that, you know, probably it's Marlborough before certainly Marlborough before New Zealand, and often Marlborough before Lawson's, you know. That's what gets you in the door. It's the fact that it's Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, and so you go and see a wholesaler or you go and see a restaurant. You know, they want to see you because they need to have Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. It's what the customers are demanding. So it's that reputation that gets you in the door in the first place. And then for us, we pour them the wine and they try it, and then, you know, hopefully that seals the deal. But really, it's that brand, such strong brand recognition, such a reputation for quality. That's what, you know, that's what's built the New Zealand wine industry. And I think it's, you know, it's as strong as it's ever been.
One of the smaller producers in Marlborough, Lawson's can only survive by making good quality wine. And while the catalogue of awards are nice, Marcus's reward for the hard work comes in a more traditional manner.
We do very well on wine shows. We do very well with reviews as well, but I'm not too, I don't personally get caught up. It's a nice marketing tool for us. But for my, you know, if it wins a gold medal today, it still tastes the same as it did yesterday before it got the gold medal. So I enjoy making wines that I like myself, you know. So that's kind of where the pride comes in. I like, you know, sitting at home at the weekend, open the, you know, have a glass of wine and think, shit, that's not bad, you know.
All Marcus's talk of drinking wine had me thirsty, so I thought it was about time we headed to the tasting room where the public can pop in and try Lawson's best for themselves. After telling Marcus that I tend to like most varieties other than Chardonnay, he insisted I try some of his. If I try one and I don't think it tastes like cat urine, then it's normally a good sign.
I don't know what bloody cats you're drinking the urine from, but...
It's got a really nice citrus.
tone to it.
And if I liked it, it had to be good. We then moved on to something more up my alley, which was the perfect way to finish the day. Enjoying a beautiful Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc harvested 12 months ago from the Blind River block, where our day had begun.
So Marcus, this is from the block we were down at.
Yeah, this is from the Blind River block. So, you saw it's a pretty beautiful part of the river.
Beautiful bit of land.
And as it often works, a beautiful bit of land produces a beautiful wine. This is 2015, so you saw the 2016 being harvested, but it's so passion fruity, isn't it? And then
not so much acidity for a Sav.
No, it's got a little sort of mellow. Part of that's because it's been in the bottle for 6 months. It's also 10% barrel fermented, and it has a nice. We always get this chalky minerality to the wine.
Just seeing it makes me want to go back. Well, the Rangitata diversion race is the country's largest irrigation scheme, irrigating around 75,000 hectares of the mid-Canterbury plains. And while the RDR has been in place for over 70 years now, they're still finding ways to improve the operation.
It was first contemplated back even before the 1900s. So there was an Ashburton County Council stopwater race here back in the 1850s, I think it was. But it wasn't until the Great Depression in the late 30s or mid 30s, and the Ministry of Works decided that that was a good time to really continue with some plans around providing irrigation through mid-Canterbury. So the Ministry of Works started this process, in fact built the 67 kilometre long canal that starts here at the Rangitata River and goes all the way to the Rakaia River. But there were a lot of camps here, workmen's camp, not far from where we're standing in fact. People lived here all year round. It's not too bad on a warm summer's or autumn day like today, but in the middle of the winter this place is quite grim. And to begin with, the canal was dug with pick and shovel. It was dug by hand, and machinery came on later in the day. But an amazing undertaking when you think that the population of New Zealand in the late 30s, early 40s in the South Island was probably less than 1 million, and most eligible men of sort of working age were signing up to go and fight the King's Wars in Europe. So just an incredible undertaking.
You talk 67 kilometres of canal, so how many hectares does that mean can be irrigated in mid-Canterbury?
Well, we've originally used to irrigate around about 64,000 hectares across mid-Canterbury. With a lot of changes that have happened in irrigation efficiency, we've been able to use the same amount of water but spread it further. So we're now at about 75,000 hectares, but we have a consent to go up to 95,000 hectares, and I think technology will help us get there.
And technology was what we had come to Rangitata to see, with a recent investment working away here. When high rainfall on the west coast causes the Rangitata to swell, large amounts of sand and sediment make their way into the canal. If the sediment isn't cleaned out, it can cause wear and tear at the diversion's 2 hydro power stations, and it also has the potential to choke the canal completely. That's where the dragline, as it's called, comes in. The RDR's previous dragline was a converted crane. However, after 15 years of operation, it was time for it to be decommissioned.
There are only, as far as I'm aware, 2 companies in the world that manufacture purpose-built draglines, both of which, funnily enough, are in southern Germany. Neil and myself went to southern Germany and had a look at both manufacturers and saw the machines in operation over there. And the Germans do seem to have an appetite for gravel, which I believe a lot of that gravel goes into road making, of which there are many. You'll be familiar with the Autobahns. And so we went over there, had a look, and made our investment decision and plumped for this Sennerbogen machine, which is a 65-ton machine. We now have a bucket that is twice the size of the old ones. This one is 2 cubic meters. And in terms of the cycle time, so when Neil puts the puts the bucket in the water to putting the bucket back in the water, having emptied it, we're probably lifting twice the amount of material in perhaps a little bit under half the time that we used to do with the old machine. So almost 4 times as productive as the old machine.
Being twice as productive isn't the only difference. RDR Operations Manager Neil Stevens was lucky enough to be the first to get his hands on New Zealand's only purpose-built dragline.
It's chalk and cheese between the two machines. The old machine, you had a GM engine sitting in the back of it and you used to wear hair muffs and scream all day. This machine, you can have the radio going and sit in quiet. It's an air-conditioned cab, heated in the winter, where the other one was just pretty much the elements. So there is probably like a Model T compared to a late model BMW, I suppose.
And with the new dragline now in operation, the focus can shift to finding new ways to improve.
We're hoping to get a resource consent application to build a 53 million cubic metre storage pond. That would probably give us somewhere in the region of 2 to 3 weeks worth of water that we could provide ourselves if we were on 100% restrictions. That, to my knowledge, has never happened. But there are other uses beyond our own shareholders. We're getting quite a lot of interest from irrigation schemes south of the Rangitata River, and it may well be that our pond can provide some capacity to provide water down to there.
Well, on our way down to the RDR, we paid a small visit to the Methven Play Centre. That's after the break on rural New Zealand. Welcome back to rural New Zealand. Well, recently, when we were on our travels, we stopped in at the Methven Play Centre where we were making scones. Have a look at this. Yes, I wasn't sure what I'd got myself into, but it was scone making time with some of the Methven mums and their little minions.
Where does the milk come from, Hazel?
Cows.
Yeah.
And they come out nine tails through poo. On that. On that. Tails through that.
On the grass, yeah.
On the grass. Yeah, I'm sure that was grass.
After learning where our milk had come from, it was time to add some more because my amateur mixing skills had my batch looking a little dry.
Beauty, thank you.
Gosh, this is where something you've been missing out on in your life. You said you've not made a scone before.
No, well, I think the last time I might have been involved with making scones, I would have been these guys' ages.
After a bit of a fix-up, it was finally time to take our mixture down to the oven. And even if my attempt didn't make the standard, it was okay as I had plan B up my sleeve.
It's all right because even if those aren't too good, they're a bit dry. There's some I prepared earlier. Now that is a good scone.
And as it turns out, my scones were easily the worst in the batch. However, it wasn't going to affect the satisfaction level.
The satisfaction of making it yourself is an added bonus you can't account for. Well, they've realised it's time for the end of the show. Unfortunately, that is all that we have time for on this episode of Rural New Zealand. Make sure you tune in next week, though, where we check out a farm that's been acknowledged for its water quality and management. We visit the BHU Organic Training College. We meet keen hunter Alan Jones. And we find the Young Veggie Grower of the Year. If you would like to keep up with how we're going on our travels, make sure to like us on Facebook. Just search Rural New Zealand. We'll see you next time.